Welcome to Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. Here's your host, Stacey Jones.
Welcome to Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. I'm Stacey Jones, and I'm so happy to be here with you all today, and I want to give a very warm welcome to Ben Lund. Ben is the founder of Rise Marketing Group, a performance marketing agency focused on advertising, SEO, email marketing, and social media. Over his 18-year career in marketing, Ben has worked for companies including Monster, Yahoo, Rim Kaufman Group, and Google. He now helps companies, marketing directors, and other entrepreneurs drive business growth through strategic marketing and advertising. Today, Ben and I are going to be chatting about measuring business growth and ROI through digital marketing practices. We'll learn what works from Ben's perspective, what should be avoided, and how some companies just miss the mark. Ben, welcome. So happy to have you here today.
Stacey, thanks so much for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
Of course. What I always love doing is starting off chatting about how did you get here today? What made you dive into this world of digital marketing to decide to start an agency?
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like if you know the Talking Heads, that once in a lifetime song, how did I get here? Great question. Depends how long we have. But in short, yeah, how did I get here? I graduated from UMass Amherst Eisenberg School of Business, undergrad in 2004. I just liked marketing classes. Those were the fun ones. So I'm like, all right, I should probably stick within marketing. And then earlier in my career, I worked at monster.com when that was a thing. You know, you look for jobs, you look at Monster. I was in ad sales, and by ad sales, that makes it sound way more glamorous than it actually was. I was just cold calling and dialing for dollars and calling 60 folks a day to try to sell job postings. I paid well. It was a good job. It was not a good career, at least for me. But I took that. I'm like, okay, I like this whole internet-y thing that I'm doing, not necessarily just sell. And yeah, so then I was like, okay, I'm going to leave Monster. Let's look out there. And then I got a huge break early in my career. Someone knew someone who was hiring at Yahoo. And at the time in the mid 2000s, Yahoo was kind of a big deal. Still had a strong amount of search volume compared to Google. Everyone went to the Yahoo homepage, the portal to the internet. And I was an account manager, and I worked with great brands like Comcast, Fidelity, and I just learned so much. And then over there, so that's just like solidified me of like, I love marketing. I love digital marketing. I love internet marketing, like everything online. And then I just kept on that path and then worked at an ad agency, RKG, Rim Kaufman Group, since acquired by Merkle. And then I ended up at Google because, again, someone knew someone who was hired. I'm like, well, shoot, I should probably go for it because it's Google and you love marketing. So that's a pretty good spot. And I was there for a few years, but I left Google because throughout, let's say, the last 15 years or so, I always wanted to do my own thing. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never knew what exactly that would be, but then eventually it hit me. I'm like, well, you've been doing digital marketing for a long time. Why don't you sell that as a service? And then, took that giant leap and founded Rise Marketing Group almost 5 years ago. It was a little over 4.5 years ago. And it's been a ton of fun.
Well, first of all, I know you worked at Google, but you're talking about Yahoo, where you also worked. And I love Yahoo. Like, I still am one of those like diehards, I think, who likes reading on Yahoo. So I'm glad it's still around.
I still visit it. I don't know if I check my Yahoo mail. It's probably loaded with spam. But I do go to the Yahoo homepage and fun memories for sure.
It's still ticking along.
Yep.
So with Google, like everyone wants to know, I mean, so many hours, so much money is spent in trying to figure out how to optimize your website so Google can, do the holy grail of delivering you to your customer base and get you sales. Yep. So you're helping brands right now really kind of understand and master through and figure out how to actually stand out on something that is one of the number one ways to actually get your business found.
Absolutely. And no doubt I'm biased on our agency, but it does help having someone that was an insider at Google to, where should that effort be focused? Nothing's really fluff at Google, but like prioritization. There's always there's level of priority. What should be number one on a media plan, number two on a media plan. And then sure, if you want to try some testing, try this and that. But Google is an excellent ad platform. It's not the only platform we work on, but it's an excellent one. And if you can really engineer it, it can do wonders for businesses. But it takes a lot of time, investment, and know-how to like really get into it a good spot.
So when you're saying, number one, number two, what are those number ones, number twos? What should you be doing as someone who is trying to find business, make business happen for you?
Yeah. So let's say so it always depends on goals. So if your goal is like, we have a new product or new brand, I just want to drive awareness and consideration, that's more upper funnel. And that would be more just, let's say, YouTube or display ads. But most of our clients, they want customers. They want new customers. They want repeat customers. And like, we sell these products or services. I want customers. So for those businesses, some of that number one, number two, sounds silly, but Google search, Google has made a legitimate fortune with their search ads because they work really, really well, because you can have your ad shown at that exact moment that someone is in market searching for the product or services that you offer. However, it is very competitive, and you really need to know all the nuances of it and set a proper measurement, so that way the system can learn what clicks are more likely than not to drive conversions. Now, that's number one. And then just to answer your question, number two, Performance Max is an awesome campaign type that Google rolled out in early 2022. It's pretty much all algorithmically derived, where you upload a bunch of assets. So text, headlines, descriptions, images, video, just upload it to Google, give it a couple of signals of audiences of like, hey, check out these audiences. You're not going to explicitly target them, but keep them in mind, set a proper measurement, and you're going to start to see a theme in how we chat about marketing here. Measurement is number one. And then it will go and find customers. We've been very pleased with Performance Max. We just released a blog post on that for both lead gen as well as e-com. So that's just a little teaser on some of the plays. But again, it really depends on what the goals of the program is.
Well, can people nowadays actually have success and be found if they are not doing paid advertising on Google? If someone just went for an organic approach, are they going to be successful and able to be successful as a business? What would they need to do if that was indeed their direction?
You can be successful. You need a ton of patience, though. You need a ton of patience. But we encourage every client, pretty much I say, any client that is expecting to be in business in, let's say, 2 to 3 years from now, you should do SEO, search engine optimization. But we have that requisite. Now, if this is a startup company, like, yeah, we offer this. How many customers do you have? Not too many. We're just getting off the ground. They don't even know if they're going to be in business in a couple of years. So I'm like, forget SEO. Because you're not even going to start to see a return until multiple quarters out from that initial effort, that initial lift. But for businesses that are viable, they make money, they make profit, they expect to be in business in a couple of years, I say absolutely should be doing SEO. And early on, it's not going to be profitable. You're going to lose money off it because you're putting a bunch of money into content, which you really need to think through, provide value-driven content, do your keyword research and identifying gaps where it's not as competitive. You need get your story out there and have other websites reference the great work that you're doing. And over time, if you keep up the content and getting other sites to link to you and making sure you have an optimized site from a technical perspective, you will see rewards. And over time, I believe that SEO is more profitable than paid ads if you do it for a long time. So initially, first couple quarters, it's not profitable at all. But then you're going to hit this break-even point, and then it just takes off. Whereas paid, total opposite. Let's say first month or two, or even 3, you're not that profitable, but you're learning and you're figuring out who your audience is. But then it catches on and it's very consistent in terms of profitability. So yeah, it is possible, but you need a lot of patience in getting SEO to work.
Yeah, we approached it where back in 2012, I started writing our blog, and that was a long time ago. If you think
Good
about
for
it,
you, you're ahead of the trend. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And we have thousands of blogs at this point. I ended up recruiting my team to start writing too. It's now a mandate of our agency that's part of, we have something that's called Learn, Do, Teach. And so you have to learn it, you have to do it, you have to teach it in order to be able to pass knowledge along and to foster for clients. And that's really intrinsic into who we are, and the culture of our agency is very educational. But it's been beneficial because when we write those blogs and we write that content, it is there now sticking a decade later. And especially when we write where it's not, it's very, wide topically, where it's something that's going to be evergreen. And so I am a massive proponent on SEO optimized content, where I know our agency could certainly do better, because I think, we have gone in for the last 15 years on, we have content, podcast, blog, social, and of course, everything that we do as an agency of getting our clients into other people's content through product placement and influencer marketing. But ads and actually paying has it helps, it boosts, it does something for you that just organic's not going to do on your own. Yep.
Yeah. So it's good to have a nice diversified mix. And kudos to you for all the content that you put out there. So not only are you getting month over month great inbound traffic, but I believe that even also helps out from conversion rates, because if someone goes to your website versus a competitor and then they say, oh my gosh, look at all the great content that Stacy's team put on, like they definitely know what they're doing, they're probably more likely to work with you than another one that's just a whatever landing page, maybe same expertise, but they're not showing it and sharing it.
Yeah, it establishes expertise. It raises you above your competitors. And when you're able to say that all of your competitors come to you to learn, and you actually have the backup data to show it,
that's nice.
It's definitely helpful in that regard.
Yeah.
But what are some of the mistakes that some of your clients make typically? So when you're working with them, they're a new company, they haven't done too much out there. Like, where should they start off, and where do they sometimes tend to go wrong?
Yeah, so it varies. So some clients that we've worked with in the past and are working with, sometimes they just don't know who their target audience is. And I'm sure you come across this quite a bit. So for example, you might have, a company that they have this expectation of who their target audience is, but they don't know for sure. And then the mistake is they don't really have the data to back up. They just kind of think, or a gut feeling. Mm-hmm. So to rectify any potential mistake of like, okay, well, let's just go to market at this segment just based off of gut feeling. What we like to do, if they, let's say, have Google Analytics and some decent tracking set up, do some analysis. Who is their target audience? Is it what they think that it is? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Be like, hey, you're telling me your audience is this, but all your customers are actually this audience. If you want to get into this audience, that's fine. Your original one, we can have a campaign for that, but I don't want to negate all these people that are actually buying from you. So that's a big one of just really understanding, and that will evolve for any business over time, and that can change. But as a source of truth, we really like using Google Analytics and making sure all measurements set up of lead generation or transactions, just so that way you can do some really good analysis to understand who your customers are, not only different attributes of what they do online, but also, are they in the Northeast? Are they the West Coast? Are they younger demographic, older, things like that?
And so besides the demographics and besides setting that up, what else should you be looking out for? So, your core is, I want to hit this audience.
Yep.
And obviously, you know what your top three differentiators are, what your messaging is. You're not new at doing all of this.
Yep.
But how should you approach? How do you figure out, is it just doing keyword search and trying to figure out what, is trending, how you
Yep.
stand out and differentiate even more?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So there's a bunch of things. So let's say, for example, working with a client and we identify an audience or two that frequently buy from them. So like, great, let's go after that. And then, yes, then it comes down into a lot of the keyword research of like, okay, what are people searching in this category? What do they want to know? And then it goes into creating the ads, like what messaging really relates to them or resonates to them, and then the landing page. But what we like to do is create a couple different campaigns and maybe different type of audiences. And then within each, we might even have different creative. And once the beauty of Google Ads and a lot of advertising platforms is you can get data like quite fast. And then so you can go after different audience segments, let's say 3 different campaigns, 3 different audiences, and then send them all to the same landing page or maybe different iterations. And then we can just see like, how are they interacting with your brand? And then that's an easy optimization of if one audience just doesn't work well for whatever reason, let's kill it or optimize to see if we can get to profitability. And the ones that we find that are just working, let's give it more budget and more opportunity to grow.
So what you're saying is digital marketing is an ever evolving,
yes,
continuously moving target that you're working on.
Yes, it is not a set it and forget it shop. I wish it was. I mean, that'd be pretty easy. It would probably be way more profitable. It would just be like, oh, we set it up and it's just cruising along. You need to be super active, always looking at the data first. Absolutely. And you have to do this because, well, 2 reasons. One, it's more and more competitive every day, week, quarter. And then 2, expectations from the consumer and digital users are significantly higher now than 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I mean, when I was in ads, 10, 15 years ago, you could have a pretty garbage site selling whatever product. And if you served it to a person who was in market for that product, you could still get some good profit out of it. But now things are different. Users look for frictionless experiences, thanks to Amazon, for better, for worse. They're looking for reviews. They're looking even for, does that brand align with that user? Like, are they ethically responsible or like whatever it is? So times have changed and you need to up level your site and generally your business to meet the needs and expectations of consumers.
And so when you're starting to work with someone and you have them as a client, what are the general areas that you're most diving into to figure out if Google is going to be their friend?
Yeah. And Google may not be their friend. I mean, I do believe that Google can work for pretty much about anyone just because it's such a massive platform. They have so many tools at their disposal. But we are very much platform agnostic. So for example, Google Meta ads, so Facebook, Instagram, Microsoft, which is a lot of folks don't talk about little Microsoft and Bing, but it's a great platform, usually less competitive and decent conversion rates. LinkedIn for B2B is awesome. But so with that platform agnostic view, we'll launch on Google and we'll say, hey, can we get things going? And let's say we launch on Google and Meta for an e-commerce client. And let's say our hunch was like, oh, based off past experience with similar clients, Google should do pretty well. Let's say it doesn't, or maybe it's a little bit above break even, but Meta, Facebook, Instagram is just going gangbusters. I'm not going to spend all of our time to like force Google to try to make it work. I'd say, let's feed the winners. If social ads is where it's at for whatever reason, maybe it's a new product, it's very visual and shareable. Let's just lean into that. So that's one thing, like we are a Google ads agency. Yes, we do that for a lot of our clients, but we are not and sometimes it's even using other platforms like a Criteo, which is DSP, which you can serve on a dozen different platforms through it. So it's always good to have just an unbiased view. Data first. Data is going to tell you what's working, what's not, and then go from there.
Okay. And what are some of the mistakes that people make with that? So when you say, hey, let's move you over and do ads, do they jump in and go too big to start? Do you jump in and people start too small, or do they think that they're going to get overnight expectations and are not realistic in the fact that, it takes time to finesse and create good copy and ads and test market?
All of the above. Just kidding. In terms of mistakes, majority of our clients, we have good budgets. And when I say good, it doesn't mean lofty budgets. It's a budget that's suitable enough to get some good data to see what's going to work and what's not going to work. And then really that's what we strive for. And I personally am always on the side of just taking it more conservative on budget. We really look at our advertising budgets like as we're spending our own money. You don't need to spend $50K a month to see if a landing page works or an audience works. You don't even need to spend $15K or $10K. You can get the data as long as you have proper measurement in pretty much real time. And early on, you can get some nice indicators of what's going to work and what's not. So budget, it needs to be a good budget. And good doesn't mean a big budget, just means to be sufficient to get a reasonable amount of data to make some decisions and give any platform an optimal time. Next one is definitely expectation setting, where when you launch a program, don't expect conversions. Conversions mean transactions or leads day one, day two, or even week one. When you launch, you build out the campaigns and then you launch, you're like, okay, are we getting impressions? Are our ad servings? 2, are we getting clicks to our website? 3, what are they doing on the website? Are they just bouncing or are they hanging in there? And will you get some conversions early on? Probably, but I don't really advertise that because you don't know until you know. And then after a week or two, then we start to say like, okay, ads are serving, we're getting a lot of traffic to the site. Now we should start to get conversions. And if we don't get conversions, then that raises some good questions. How is the website? How's the landing page? Are we reaching the right audience or are we not reaching the right audience and the landing page is great? So there's a lot of things. So in terms of mistakes to avoid is a proper expectation setting of what's that process to get into a profitable program, which it can take some time. 2, in terms of ad budget. And then 3, mention this once or twice, but make sure you have great measurement. So any ad platform that you're advertising on, in this case, Google, make sure you have the Google ad pixel set up. Meta, make sure you have the Facebook pixel set up. LinkedIn, so forth and so on, and conversion events. And then we also like to do another conversion set it up through Google Analytics to be like the holistic source of truth, just see how everything works. Because in the past, sometimes some platforms would overcount conversions and you look at GA and like, that doesn't match up. The truth is probably somewhere in between those two platforms, but it's just good to have another platform just to confirm what the ad platforms are saying, but make sure you have all that measurement set up. And that is a mistake. That's probably the most common mistake that I see, where we take over accounts and they just don't have proper measurement. And I'm like, well, we're in an age of automation and machine learning. How is Google going to get good at serving your ads and hitting your goals if you're not feeding it the right information? And same thing for Facebook.
What are some of the changes we're going to see in the years ahead, do you think, with Google?
More automation, machine learning. Absolutely. So I mentioned earlier on, like you asked, what are the top 2 campaigns we should try? I'm like, well, it depends on your goal, but if you're a direct response marketer, search and then Performance Max. So Performance Max is kind of a game changer for Google, where you're not saying, hey, Google, show ads based off of these keywords that people are searching or this audience, or it's pretty much just giving Google a ton of great data, set up proper conversion tracking. Hey, here's my landing page and here are a bunch of ad assets. Here's my goal, cost per acquisition target, for example. And then you say, Google, have at it. And their algorithms are insanely good where it will drive performance. But getting to answer your question, where marketing is going to go for Google and beyond, and probably other platforms, it's more of this, more of managing the machine. Marketers and agencies are not going to go away. Years ago, people were going to be like, oh, in automation, there's going to be no agencies. Everyone's going to be out of a job. Honestly, you probably need more expertise now than you've ever had because you're training these machines, these marketing algorithms on how to work. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're probably going to feed it bad information, and it's just going to like throw you totally off trajectory.
Yeah. And, it's so easy to think that this is how it's going to be and how it's going to stick. And without having that insight, and like as soon as you learn one thing, Google or any of the other platforms out there makes a change and everything goes out. It used to be about Panda and this and that, but now it's like on a revolving weekly basis.
Always.
There are changes.
Always changes. A ton with SEO. I mean, you probably look at the websites like Search Engine Land. They're always going through changes, and then Google's always rolling out new beta tests and then rolling them out to the public. There's always changes, and to be successful as an advertiser, there's a lot of things that you need to do, but it also helps to be privy to these changes. So when there's new opportunities, you're like, oh, got it. I'm going to jump at this before all my competitors do. And then you almost stake your claim at being a leader in this. Yeah. And then you might have a nice runway before everyone else catches up to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so if you had to give someone, these are the 3 things you need to do this year, what would you say to them? And I know that's really, really generic and hard because it depends on who you're talking to, but in general.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm going to say that a lot of people talk about, and it's nothing new, but very rarely do people do it. And that is carving out a test budget. And so let's say your marketing budget is $10K a month or $100K a month, carve out 10 to 15% of that budget to try new things. Because if you're not pushing the envelope, trying new channels, new campaigns, like truly, how are you going to grow? By just optimizing your existing campaigns. So I would be very, anyone who's doing budgeting for this year, 2023, I would definitely carve out budget for testing, because that is just going to help you out long-term to keep that leadership position or gain that leadership position. So that's number 1. Number 2, really get comfortable with data, whether that's themselves or someone on their team. Just because we have so much data at our disposal, which is a great thing, and it can give a lot of answers to questions that we may have on our marketing. I would invest in talent on team to, let's say, set up Google Analytics 4, which everyone should be migrating to now, if they haven't done so already, and really look at the data. Who are our customers? What are they doing on our website? Is our website good from a point of engagement? Are they bouncing right away? Like, just get comfortable with data, because the answers are all there. You just need to mine through it. So doesn't mean that everyone has to take these master classes on Google Analytics, but hire an agency, hire someone on your team, get comfortable with data. So we talked about test budget, get comfortable with data. And then third thing I would say, just kind of on the fly here, I would say this is not a novel idea, but very important that a lot of people overlook. Put your customers first. How does your website look to them? Are you solving their needs? And it's easy to have a product or a campaign, or a website or a campaign that's me, I'm so good, look at me, we're the best ever. Who cares? Like, think about the customer and what do they want to see? What's going to make them feel at ease? And you can get some great data by interviewing your existing customers or just surveying folks. And if you just keep that user focused or customer focused, that's going to help across all channels. That's not just digital, that's everything.
So, Ben, how can people find you? If someone wanted to find you and have a conversation and hire your agency, where do they go?
Yeah. RiseMKG.com or just Google Rise Marketing Group. You'll find our website and if interested, check out our website, our services, and we have a contact page, our number's there, or just fill out a Calendly link and then we'll schedule just a free marketing assessment. What are you looking to accomplish? Let's look at the data. What's the opportunity for you? And just go from there.
Perfect. And so if you're thinking about marketing in 2023, we know that obviously Google and all of the search engines are constantly reinvigorating themselves, let's say.
Absolutely.
What do you think are new trends that we're going to see shortly?
Yeah, so there's a lot of trends that are happening. So I talked about machine learning automation.
Yep.
That's going to continue. So pin that, just keep that up there. There's also a lot of economic trends that are happening. So as it stands right now in January 2023, there's always talks, are we in a recession? Did we start in a recession 6 months ago? Are we going into one? But we are seeing that impact some buying behavior. So keep that in mind with whatever your go-to-market, either pricing or messaging is, just to be aware of this. This isn't pre-COVID and times are pretty good, even though everyone can always complain about anything. So there's different trends, even economically, in macro trends that you need to think about. Maybe your conversions rates might be a little bit lower this year over last year. How can you differentiate yourself? Do you have to revisit your price and things like that? So that's another good one, or that I believe is good that you should probably keep in mind of just these macro trends that's going to impact everything. And then another trend, and this is just marketing overall, which kind of goes to user experience and SEO, is always provide value for the user. And Google, all their SEO updates, as I know you know, Stacy, has always been user first, provide great experience for the user. And that's how Google turned into an awesome search engine, because they're only prioritizing sites that provide real good value to the user. But that it has been a trend ongoing and will not go away. That's on Google for anything that you put on your website, but also even ad quality from Google ads or Meta ads. Have good ads, because the engines and the ad platforms will reward you. If you have garbage ads but a budget, they'll still serve it, but you're going to pay a premium CPC. So make sure you're just putting out quality, value-driven, user-first content. Easy to say, hard to do for sure. But that's what I would continue to do in 2023.
One of the things that we're seeing also is a new rise in artificial intelligence written word, where you can use platforms like Jarvis and others where they're generating content for you. How is your agency approaching that?
Yeah, so I'm not one to say, oh, you can't use it, a bot wrote it, that means it's bad content. I don't believe that to be true. However, I do believe that you can't rely 100% on bot-driven content. So what I would recommend to do for anyone who is exploring this, don't just rely on the algorithms. Use that to maybe supplement or maybe even do research of what people might be interested in, but always provide your own POV based off of your experiences or your team's experiences. So, because that is unique to anyone, can go to Jarvis, if that's the what name of the website, I forget what it is, you just mentioned it, and just write an article of top 10 tips for email marketing. It's going to be the exact same. And so there's going to probably be a lot of duplicate content, but if you want to explore that, I'm fine with it. But have your own POV. So you could say top 5 tips of email marketing or SEO. It's going to spit, a couple different things, proof it to make sure it's accurate, that you would stand behind it. And then say, here are the top trends. And this is our take and why these are important. So always adding that value-driven content. It will be really interesting to see how Google approaches this. Yeah. No doubt Google's been aware of this probably for years now. I don't know, but focus on the user and add something that is truly of value and not something that could just be duplicated 10 or even 100 times over on a bunch of different blogs.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's like, how many times can Google take the exact same question that one company after another asks it and delivers it in a new way? And as humans, we do it really well. We take it, we interpret it, we put our own information in it, we can add in our own thought processes to it.
Yeah.
And I love how you said, use the AI, but then add yourself into it as well. Because you would think that eventually it's just going to be a wasteland of, okay, here are 500 articles on the top 10 ways to do blah.
And it'll just be like garbage articles, and folks reading, I mean, eventually you'll even be able to pick up like, is this driving real value? This is the same stuff that I read day in and day out. So anyone who is 100% focused on just having the machine write everything, I think they're going to be an early benefactor of it, but then they're going to experience some pain down the road.
Yeah.
As people did when they started gaming backlinks and buying a bunch of shady links, and they gamed it, but then they suffered from it. So do it the right way. Trust your gut. If you think this is played within the rules, that can be a nice barometer.
I can see 5 years from now hiring agencies to add errors to the AI, just so that the written word has a little bit of a human touch to it. Just wait.
Yeah, that's right. I can see that.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed chatting with you and having our audiences and myself learn from all of your insight. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Stacey. I appreciate it.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. I look forward to chatting with you this next week. And until then, if you have any questions on how you can leverage pop culture and get your brand to do other people's content, because today we've really been focused on your own content, give us a call at Hollywood Branded. And I look forward to chatting with you soon. Have a great one.